Hey, Armin here. Welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show, where we cover training, nutrition, supplementation strategies, and a whole lot more. So stand by. Hey, and welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Armin Eckelbarger.
I'm Frank Mills. Welcome to the show. Hey, a little bit of new information here in the show before we get started. The QR codes, direct contact information to Armin and I. If you have questions for the show, you want to contact or connect with us, now you can do it. Just simply whip out your cell phone and click on it. We're also going to post the information via a link in the show notes, and you can find that on nspnutrition.com or on YouTube. Hopefully we can get it in there as well. So hopefully that eases the thing with fan questions. All right.
Awesome.
So Armin, let's get started. What we're going to be talking about today is why Hollywood stars of today are training the wrong way. And a lot of them are. And over on Frank Mills Reality Fitness, Armin and I had done several shows on specific athletes that, well, we're just doing some ridiculous training. I mean, so we'll definitely get into that. And in the second half of the show, we're going to get into more Hollywood stars information, why they're wasting their time and their efforts eating 5, 6, or more meals a day. I think one guy that we talked about had 8 meals a day, right? I mean, it was kind of crazy. So
every 2 hours.
Yeah, just nuts. So we'll get into that. But, Armin, you're saying Hollywood stars are training all the wrong way. That's a bold statement. A lot of people in Hollywood might get all up in arms with you. So what do you think?
Well, I'm sure it's going to ruffle some feathers. But, I'm reading what they're doing. I mean, I just don't get it. I think they're getting some bad information. They're making a lot of assumptions that really aren't necessary to get in great shape. I mean, I'm not doing them. And, I feel good about the conditioning I do, and my clients aren't doing it. So I'm just not sure why they're doing it, based on some of the things that, I've learned. And, we've talked about it before on another show, and it was quite surprising. But anyways, we're going to talk about it and get some feedback as well, I'm assuming.
Well, I know that we talked about a variety of stars, like I said, on the other podcast, but, there were quite a few things that I was shocked by. But what were some of the things that you were shocked by so much?
Well, most of the Hollywood stars, they don't really know what to do, so they have to rely on the trainer. So this stuff comes from the trainer, and there's a lot of things that these trainers are doing they think are, I guess, important to get these people in shape, and a lot of it has to do with doing way too much volume. They think, and I think some of it has to do with that. The reason for that is they're younger trainers, and they did volume. They think volume is what you need to do. And so they have them just working out way too long or doing 2 workouts a day, just for an acting job. I mean, they're not going to be a competitive bodybuilder, or a competitive physique athlete. They just want to look good. But that's what they have them do. And, unfortunately, it's an absolute waste of time and not even necessary to get in the condition that they need to get in. And I just thought, well, we can talk about it and see what other people think. I mean, it's just amazing.
Right. Well, when we talked about it on Reality Fitness, and if you guys are interested in that show, Armin and I were relaunching it here in a couple of weeks, and you can find the information on nspnutrition.com. You can click and go right to it. We've got pretty close to 100 shows there that we have done. We just took a little break from it, but Armin, when we talked about this, we talked about several of some of the most famous actors and some of the hottest trending actors, like Chris Pratt was one of them, I know.
Yeah.
But I think that when we talked about that, on how these guys got in shape, I mean, the repetition on some of the things were amazing, but I just couldn't believe how both of us were so caught off guard by some of the stuff that these trainers were having these famous actors doing, and they were doing it without question.
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with a trainer that you feel is, got your best interest, that's what you're going to do. I mean, that's what I have my clients do, is like they have to trust me on it. So I understand. I'm just, with this whole thing is like, okay, personally, I've been training 40 years. So, and a lot of these trainers haven't been trained as long as me
Right.
that I've
Right.
looked up. And then nothing against them. They're just trying to do what they feel is the right thing. My point is a lot of it's not necessary. And so I want to bring this to the attention of people that,
Hmm.
if you're going to, just because it's a celebrity trainer doesn't necessarily mean that they know exactly everything they need to be doing to help a person get in great shape. I mean, I wouldn't do half the stuff that they're doing. And
I
I don't even
agree.
see where they're coming up with it, but
Well, from all of the shows that we did quite a few, but why don't you elaborate a little bit on some of the things that we came up with that were just mind boggling?
well, they had each person always had each of the actors and the trainers had so many different regimens, but most of them were really based on a high volume strategy. So they had them training for
Hmm.
at least an hour or more, which isn't necessary. And then they had them do cardio either after that for 30 minutes or more, or they had them do cardio earlier in the day, and then they do weights later in the day. So you're talking about like Chris Pratt was, he felt like he was doing 3 hours of training a day, and it's an absolute waste of time. Okay,
Right.
you don't need to do that to get the results, and I think some of it has to stem from the fact that they feel like, okay, to get leaner, you just got to do a lot more volume to burn off all the calories.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, nutrition is how you burn off the calories. Don't expect a lot of volume training, weight training, and cardio to burn off all your calories. If you're thinking that, that Vince Garanda didn't do cardio at all. He didn't even talk about
Right.
cardio. And he
Right.
got people in great shape. And I'm on the same format as Vince because it works. You don't have to do a bunch of cardio to get lean. And what they also don't understand, like Vince understood, is you burn more muscle with too much work like that than you're going to gain. So why would you want to do that? Why would you want to eat all
Right.
this food and then have to do all this work to burn off more muscle and also to burn off the excess calories you're taking in the first place? So, and some of the weight routines I didn't understand and they didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I mean, they're all about compound exercises. Okay, I get it. Compound exercise is important, but if you want to look good for a movie or a scene, you want to have a good looking upper body and a good looking set of
Hmm.
legs so everything balances out. So, you need to do some arm work. Just because you're doing a compound movement doesn't mean it's going to develop the arms. I mean, you have to, and that's what Vince did, even for when he was doing his Hollywood stars training. He was hitting all the major areas, but he also
Hmm.
made sure that they're getting all the muscle groups work. And so I just disagree with that strategy. But that's what these trainers are doing. They think because it's going to burn more energy that's going to take care of things, and because they're doing a compound movement, it hits so many different muscles, it's going to develop their physique all around, and that doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So one of the other things I do want to say is
Hmm.
some of them they didn't even want to have them train their legs. Well, you're not going
Right.
to see that on TV. Let's just work your upper body. That's just not in the client's best interest, personally.
Right.
You need to
Right.
train for a overall quality looking physique. And this is just my opinion. People can disagree or whatever, but I would never train anybody like that. Just not going to happen. And then they're training 6 and 7 days a week on some of these people. So
Hmm.
there's no way that, with an actor's job and all the stress they have and remembering things and doing the scenes over and over, they're not going to have the kind of recovery they need for this kind of training. So yeah, I mean that's just some quick notes.
Well, I can't imagine how some of them are under such, well, just say tremendous pressure if they have to get ready for a film in 8 weeks and all they're doing is eating, drinking, sleeping, and training. That's a lot of pressure, to put these actors under. And we've read several of them of what they did, and it was 8 to 10 weeks. So you got to be ready for this movie, and it was grueling for some of them. Now, I'm sure, just in case, if Chris Pratt or somebody's watching this and they go back and review the Frank Mills Reality Fitness, they're going to wonder, hey, well, wait a minute. You guys are criticizing my workout. What would you do? So, Armin, what would you do differently from the stuff that you and I have been able to experience from doing the shows?
Well, that's a really good point. So, first off, my strategy is going to depend on what they want to look like, what they need to look like, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to determine what weak points they have in their physique, and I'm going to explain that based on looking good and symmetrical and really being ready, we need to work on these other areas more so than other areas. So I would
Mm-hmm.
specialize in the weaker areas so it can bring those up as quickly as they can, and then but still train the other muscle groups. And it all depends if they want to get them corrected as well, and if they're good with that. So I'm going to customize the program based on what needs to be done for the look, and then also their schedule. You know, you don't need to do all this excessive work. You need to work on
Right.
your recovery, and then hit the muscles hard, and then let them improve. So the next question would be, well, how many days a week do they feel they can commit to training? And
Mm-hmm.
if they say, well, I can only do 2 days a week, we'll say, well, we're going to probably need more than that. So I'm going to suggest probably 4 to 5 days a week. I think and the max would be 5 days a week. And well, most likely be the max 5 days a week. I mean, you
Okay.
need 2 days of adequate recovery just for the central nervous system, let alone this is all a lot of this stuff's based on if they got perfect sleep, no stress. That isn't going to happen. It's going to be a factor with what they're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
and then on top of that, I would keep the training under 45 minutes or less. This stuff of training over that is you're getting to a point of diminishing returns in the first place. The whole
Mm-hmm.
strategy to transform your physique is to break down the muscle in a short period of time, which Ben's figured that out, and then you let it recover, but you got to speed up the recovery through nutrition. It's not about doing extra cardio and other stuff. And some people are like, well, you need some heart conditioning, and that's why you need cardio. That's debatable if you train at a fast pace. And then there's
Right.
going to be a lot
Right.
of controversy on that. I fully disagree that you need cardio for heart strength. I mean, my cardiovascular is fine. I don't have any problem with it, and I don't train. I don't do cardio. And some people, oh, that you. What about this distance event or that distance event? I don't care.
Right.
Doesn't matter. I
Right.
don't need that to stay healthy and look good. So it's really not a factor. So I just don't agree with the cardio strategies, and they think you need to do that to get lean. And we're going to talk about nutrition side, which
Mm-hmm.
I was really shocked by that as well. But no cardio is going to be one of my mantras on it. Or if you're going to do something and you want to do something, it's going to be very short and brief. It's going to be like
Right.
10 to no more than 20 minutes total at the most.
Well, I know that every show that we did, it was loaded with cardio for each of them. So
Oh yeah, it was
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, it was crazy. I mean, even more cardio than I'm used to hearing about. It was more than that. So it was kind of crazy. But Armin, one thing I was kind of curious about too is when we talked about the workouts, we talked about the types of the muscle group combinations that they did as well. What's
Hmm.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that's something again. It would really be based on developing the weak muscle groups, so that it's designed to improve those, and then keep the other muscle groups growing. And I didn't see any of that being discussed at all. It just seemed like they were doing routines that they kind of liked from them, from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them, their physiques, their arms weren't very well developed. And so, and you look at the routine, I could tell right away where the arms weren't very well developed. They didn't, I'm using this as an example. They didn't
Right,
really do a
right.
whole lot of exercise for them. Like they do a set of hammer curls. Well, hammer curls do nothing for your biceps. I mean, it helps it's just not the main exercise for biceps. So why are they
Mm-hmm.
doing hammer curls made no sense to me. So yeah, a lot of routines I just quite didn't understand. But now the reason is because I look at routines differently because I want to shape all the muscles as as neatly and cleanly as I can with the right exercises to do what I want the muscle to look like. I didn't
Right,
see any of
right.
that with any of these people. They're all over the place with 5 sets of 5 reps for this, and then they just got to do 7 reps of deadlifts for 3 sets. And I'm like, well, what's that? There was no discussion of set to failure, things like that. So I just didn't quite understand, why they're doing it. And then personally, a lot of them, they don't look as good as they could look, in my opinion, based on when I looked at the routines, I could see why. And then the
Hmm.
nutrition was the other element to it. So, and again, it's
Right.
just my my viewpoints and my opinion on it.
Well, it's a good one. The other part of it too that we talked about, and I know depending on who you'd be talking to, it would be different for each
Yeah.
potentially. But what type of a split in the training would you start with, or would you suggest with a full body session?
Yeah, so I'm really not a big fan of full body workouts. I've done
Okay.
them, and there's just no way that you can mentally uh, be really strong and able to complete full body workout. Because once you get done hitting your legs, and then you hit your back, and then you hit your
Hmm.
chest, you're run out of glucose. Is if you're hitting
Right.
it hard, okay. So if you're run out of glucose, you know what you're going to finish up with isn't going to get much else,
Right. Right.
anyways. So why bother doing that? And I've done them repeatedly, and there's people that really believe in them, and that's fine. I just don't feel for anybody I worked with that it makes a lot of sense. So my worst case scenario, we do upper body, lower body. I mean, at least
Hmm.
with that, you've got some good recovery, and you can plug in enough exercises that can help shape the body the way you need to. But generally, I'll do a 2 day split, then maybe a 3 or 4 day split, even a 5 day split, depending on how advanced they are. So that's
Hmm.
a whole nother thing, is depending on what they know, okay, and what they understand about training. Because if they don't understand much about it, you don't need to give them too much, because you're going to overstimulate. And that's what I was seeing with these other
Hmm.
training routines. There's so much volume, they're overstimulating to the point where they they probably would have got a lot more results if they cut the training back. But and again, I don't know if it would have resulted in the right kind of development. And the actors don't know any better. They're just
Hmm.
going with with what the trainer suggests. So um, so I'm going to base it on what they know, where they are today, and then where we want to go to. So that's going to be one thing there. And then the splits will be adjusted based on how they adapt, as they continue to improve. And then I can adjust the splits more to get better recovery, and also make sure they're getting good development and good symmetry with good muscle balance. That would be my focus, and I think that would be what they would like to see too, not just short changing something because the trainer felt that was what was needed.
Hmm.
I'd want everything to be really well developed. That's just how I work with people.
Well, the one thing that we did notice is that a lot of the actors, it almost seemed like they had the same trainer. Um, and they always seemed to take the same approach. Yes, there were different exercises and different nutrition, that types of thing, but everything was like high volume, high repetition, high
Yeah.
cardio. Why do you think these guys are taking this approach, Armin?
Well, some of them had low repetition and stuff too.
Hmm.
And it's a really good question. And obviously, these trainers are not going to try to recommend something that isn't good. Okay, but I would say it's mostly based on the experience with what they've done in the past for themselves, and that's what it's going to be based on. So depending on how
Right.
they train, and it's the same thing for me, based on how I've trained, what I've seen work, and also working with a lot of clients. So I've worked with a lot of clients, so
Hmm.
I've seen what's not going to work and what's going to work. So I'm not sure that they had enough experience. I mean, this could have been one of those things where they just happened to be in the right place in the right time, and
Right. Right.
they're like, "Hey, can you train me?" And they said, "Yeah." I mean, who wouldn't? So I get that. I'm just again really surprised by some of these approaches, but I think someone has to do with these trainers are also younger, and I would have been in the same situation most likely,
Right.
because when you're
Right.
younger, you have a lot of energy, and you can do a lot more work. Okay, and I get that, but at the end of the day, it's not necessary. I'm
Right.
58,
Right.
and I don't do that with any of my any of the people I train. I don't have them doing a bunch of them. I mean, I don't care what age they are.
Right.
We're not
Right.
doing that because it's not necessary. So
So, Armin, why don't we break down how you would train a celebrity? I know we don't want to get into deep detail here because we're running short on time, but
right.
how how would you go about it if somebody contacted you?
Well, okay. So the first step would be, I'm going to do a deep dive into learning everything I can about what they've done in the past regarding exercise, nutrition, and and training in general, what they're currently doing, and then also where we need to go to be prepared. So then I'm going to need to know, what their schedule is going to be like, and what accessibility they're going to have, so I can give them the information I think they're going to need. Next step would be to take pictures of their physique, so we can know what the starting point is, and then determine how to design a program that's going to fit that situation. Then after that, you're going to implement a program that is going to fit what they need. But then I'm going to adjust it based on their performance and how they're doing. So that's another thing. Then give them multiple workout options and rep schemes so that can challenge them, challenge the body, and then as they adapt, readjust that as well. So it's an ongoing thing. And I think these other trainers are doing that as well. But at the same time, that's how I would do it. Then keep the training around 4 to 5 days a week. Again, depending on their goals, under 45 minutes per session for optimal recovery. And they don't need to do a lot more than that. And if somebody wants to say they do, well, that's good for them. They can. I just know better. And then lastly, I'm going to minimize, the cardio, since, when you're training at a fast pace, which is what I like to do anyways, you don't need that, because then now you're going to stop wasted time and effort and energy, and you're going to have potentially less muscle loss. And there's a lot of debate about, do you lose muscle with cardio? Well, I know for a fact you do. And so some people want to debate that, whatever. Okay. But that's just not necessary to get somebody in really good shape. I don't care what level the person's at, but these celebrities don't have to do all the work that they're doing, is my final point on that.
So as we wrap up, any final thoughts on these Hollywood workouts, Hollywood trainers?
Yeah, again, my whole thing is you don't need, if the thing is, when people read what a celebrity does with the trainer, they think that that's what they have to do.
Right.
And I just feel it's misleading, and that somebody else needs to speak up and say, you can do what this person is doing, but if you want to get good results, you don't have to do that at all. There's much better approaches. And so some people say, well, how it's a better approach? Well, I feel it's a better approach because it works for me and it works for my clients. So, and I'll probably get some heat because I'm on this, but it is what it is. So I just want people to feel like, okay, this is how you have to get in shape, because these things are published all over the media.
Right.
And
right.
I'm just sitting there going, oh my God. Some people will figure it out, but a lot of people, they don't know any better. If Hollywood stars doing it, then I'll do it. It's just like when Arnold Schwarzenegger came out with the Encyclopedia of a Bodybuilder, I started doing all Arnold's routines, and that is not going to work. It's just way too much volume. He's training for 2 hours twice a day. Well, I tried doing that, and that is not sustainable. So wouldn't recommend that to anybody. So what I'm saying is, think about what you're doing. And if you even do that and you start getting run down, that's your first sign that you're not doing a program that's fitted for yourself. So anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. These all of the publications, online information and everything, that's where we found a lot of this data that we talked about on the other podcast. And I'll tell you what, it was just mind-boggling at the stuff that we happen to see. So if you're curious about it, go check out Frank Mills Reality Fitness. The link's on the NSP Nutrition website. And, Arm and I are soon going to be letting it fly with a new format. So you're going to be stand by for that, because it's going to be a little bit more, less structured. Let's just say that, and a little bit more reality. So we'll be talking about that stuff. But Armin, great segment. And everyone stand by for a quick word from NSP Nutrition, and Armin and I will be right back.
Hey, and welcome back to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Armin Eckelbarger.
I'm Frank Mills, and again, we appreciate you joining us today. Before we get started in the second segment, just a quick word. If you go to the NSP Nutrition website and just take a look, you're seeing all kinds of enhancements, new visual, a lot of great stuff on the NSP Nutrition website. But the one thing I noticed right on the front page, and Armin, I was impressed and stunned if anybody had ever thought of joining Vince's gym.
Oh yeah,
76% off right now.
yeah.
I would highly recommend get over there and do that. That's a tremendous savings. Armin, you want to go over a little bit about what actual Vince's gym is?
Well, some of the nice features with Vince's Gym is what we've done is we've taken the concepts of the 8x8, the 6x6, the bulking course, and a couple other courses, and we put them in there so you can implement them, but they're accessible through a really nice quality app. So you have the routines in the app that you can utilize, and then you also have the nutrition. You have different nutrition
Mhm.
programs you can pick from with each one of these programs as well. So you'll start learning every 3 months you'll have a new routine and a new nutrition program to help change it up. And I think you'll find it very interesting to try and learn from. We got demonstration videos showing how to do the exercises. You can track everything. I think it's a great value for what you're going to get.
Well, head over to nspnutrition.com and check it out. It's right on the headline banner, and
Yep.
click on that and get signed up for Vince's gym. All right.
Yes, it's not going to last long.
Yes, it probably is not. So you better hurry now. Hurry up. Okay. So, Armin, next segment, why Hollywood stars are wasting effort eating 5, 6,
Yeah.
or more meals a day. Um, I know that you don't agree with these Hollywood stars and male or female, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
who are eating their food every 3 hours or even maybe more often. Um, but they feel it's necessary to have a great body. What do you think?
Yeah, that's absolutely not necessary. It's unfortunately it's a waste of time, and
Right.
along with that, a waste of effort to even get to deal with it. And long term, it's not even good for you. So that's a whole nother eye opener. And I think
Oh,
some of these stars will slowly start to understand that over time. But just because the policy to me is that okay, every time you eat, your metabolism's working and you're nourishing the body. Okay, well that's because these diets are high carbohydrate diets, very low fat, and so you have to be eating a lot more often just to maintain energy levels with that strategy. And then at the same time, you got insulin cranking all day long, and insulin over a
mm-hmm.
long period of time becomes toxic to the body, and that's why we have so many people with insulin resistance and diabetes. So I just just do not believe that that's what people are told is an effective way to eat. I disagree totally. So
So eating more often is not good for you.
yeah, for one thing, you're consuming mostly carbs, like I mentioned before, which keeps
Mm-hmm.
insulin elevated. And over time, if you keep insulin elevated, it does become toxic because it cannot process your carbohydrate intake that you're doing ongoing. And in the beginning, if you're younger, not a big issue, okay,
Right.
because
Right.
you're very adaptive to it. But it does take its toll on the body, and I can attest to this as well. So if you start getting insulin resistance over the long haul, what good's that going to do you? You're going to
Right.
adjust your carbohydrate intake no matter what, anyways. So,
Absolutely.
there's
Absolutely.
also a lot of added stress to the digestive system to be processing this food all the time, every few hours. And where's the benefits? I'm not sure what the even purpose of it is. I mean, you
Right.
can say, well, they need it for energy. Well, if they're hungry, well, your hunger depends on how you eat anyway. So
Right.
that's not a good one to be using. So if it's an energy problem, then they just need to restructure how they eat. And you don't need to do this, having and there's some bodybuilders, that are just bent on this whole thing, and I get that. But we're talking about actors. Okay.
Right.
Actors don't need to eat like a bodybuilder. Okay, because they shouldn't be even training like that as far as with the volume and the nutrition side. I don't do it, and neither do my clients. So that's what I want to highlight on that.
So how many meals should somebody have a day?
Oh, that's a good question, and obviously pretty debatable. But in my opinion, if you're really active, 3 meals a day is more than enough. Okay, so now you can supplement if you need to for some additional protein, but it doesn't need to be a meal. You can just use supplements. Okay, but 3 or more meals is plenty. And if you're not active, I just tell you right now, 1 to 2 meals, okay, is really going to probably be enough because you're not
Mm-hmm.
active. You're not even burning the energy. So the one that you'd want to do though is supplement with protein, because that's really what's the most important thing for longevity.
Hmm. What about getting enough protein? You know, is there a certain amount that you should really be targeting a day?
Well, it depends on your body weight and then where
Mm-hmm.
you're headed. So, but let me just kind of break it down some. Real
Okay.
simply, if you have 3 meals a day and you have 50 grams of protein, high quality protein, it's very absorbable. If you have 3 meals a day at 50 grams, that's 150 grams of protein. So,
Mm-hmm.
zero point 0.8 to 1 or zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is some of the recommendations. Well, you're going to
Okay.
fit that pretty good. And that equates to about 600 calories total. So if you're into calorie counting, that's 600 calories if you get 150 grams of protein. Okay, well, then the rest of it's just going to be fats and then whatever carbohydrates are going to be needed. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you need more protein, okay, say you're a bigger person, then you could still, if you needed to, have more protein per serving, or if you wanted, you could do a fourth meal. But what I prefer to do instead of doing all that is just take supplements. So that's where protein shakes can help, or taking beef liver capsules, which is protein, high quality protein, or taking pure amino acids. Again, quality protein, and it's really convenient. You just take them and put them, mix them. You take them down, rinse them down with some water or whatever, and done. You know, they got these poor movie actors trying to scramble in food and they gobble this food down in between sets. In between doing a
Right.
take, totally stressed. So your digestive system's going to be stressed because you're eating trying to eat like a rocket and get back out there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens when you try to eat real fast too. So you could just supplement and then fill any gaps in my opinion. And this is what works for me and what works for my clients.
So, how would you recommend taking those supplements?
So, like for me, if I'm going to have breakfast, then I'll have my breakfast with high quality protein there, and then in between, say I don't know, 2 hours later or whatever, then I'll have some amino acids or some beef liver capsules to have some additional protein. And then when I have lunch, I'm good there. So that can be another few hours later. So you're fitting this 3 hour window, which is fine. And
Mm-hmm.
then after lunch, a few hours later, to have some more protein, either protein drink or amino acids or beef liver capsules. And I just typically do beef liver capsules because they're very affordable and they have a lot of benefits to them. But amino
Mm-hmm.
acids are good as well. So that's what I do in between the meals. So and the purpose of that is to keep protein synthesis going and to keep the body in a positive nitrogen balance, which helps with protein synthesis as well. And the one way to keep protein synthesis going is you've got to have essential amino acids in the protein that you're taking in. That's what helps do that. So,
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So, Armin, that answers the protein, but what about carbs? Because, that's what everybody's concerned about now, right?
well, you need to understand how carbs work. And so, in my opinion, so I keep my carbs low during the day so I can burn
Mm-hmm.
fat. So it's a much easier to manage. It also keeps my insulin down and more manageable. Whereas these other people are into having carbs all day, and so when you get too many of them, they get stored as fat. That's what happens, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it, whether people want to agree with that or not. So then they have you do, all this cardio to offset the excess carbs you're eating because you get spillover. Too many carbs, they got no
Mm-hmm.
place to go, so they get converted to
Right.
fat. And this is why I don't do cardio. It's just not necessary. So if you eat properly by managing your carb intake and keeping the carbs low and using protein and fats as your main source of energy, then you just use the carbs to reload the muscles and the liver as you need to. And that's what you need to have great energy and also to help build muscle tissue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, carbs don't build muscle. They help to reload the muscles, but they don't build muscle. Protein and fat is what builds muscle. So on top of that, they want you to eat these low glycemic type of carbs. Like everybody's about sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, all this lower glycemic carbohydrates. And the issue I have with that is it keeps your insulin elevated. So it keeps it up there. Again, they want to have a good steady glucose level.
Mm-hmm.
Is that necessary? Well, it's not necessary if you're using fat as your main source of energy and not the carbohydrates. So, but then what happens is you have to eat every so many hours to keep your energy up because these carbs, as they start getting low,
Hmm.
insulin and ghrelin are going to say, hey, listen, we need more energy, so we need you to eat some more food. And it just keeps that insulin elevated the whole time. And when insulin's elevated, you do not burn fat. So there's no fat burning going to happen. And that's another reason why I have to have people doing this cardio to get their insulin down so they can even start to burn some fat because you got to burn
Hmm.
some of the carbohydrates off and not have any food for a period of time
Hmm.
to get the insulin down. So that's why they'll have you do cardio fasted in the morning, but you're still going to burn glucose because that's
Right.
what whether people like it or not, that's what you burn. You burn glucose when you're doing cardio. When do you get to the fat burning? Well, when the insulin level drops down to a point, then you get some fat burning, and it's not going to be a lot. So, and people can debate this back and forth. I don't care. I mean, I've done it both ways. Anyway, so I manage carbs by cycling them in, and that's how I do it. And that's how I do it for myself and my clients.
Well, you mentioned fat. And, I've had conversations with friends at dinner. I've got one friend specifically. He will not eat any fat on his steak or anything because he says, no, that's fat. It's not good for you. You're adding more fat to your fat. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. He doesn't believe me, no matter how I've explained it to him. But what about fat, Armin? I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Well, actually, people are brainwashed about fat. I have to deal with my wife on this. She keeps wanting to take yolks out of the eggs to get the egg whites. And I'm just like, stop doing that. You're losing all the great ingredients of the yolk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Biotin, choline, inositol, lecithin. I mean, these are all automatic fat emulsifiers, but help with nail growth, hair growth, and things like that. So, but what these approaches are that you're seeing with these actors in the mainstream, it's all about low fat, eating
Mm-hmm.
carbs all day, eating egg whites. They all have them eating egg whites, which I'm just like, that's just ridiculous. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Because when you take the yolk out, now you're dropping the protein level down and you're wasting the good property of the egg in the first place. So that's just not necessary. They're all on white meat chicken. Okay. Well, white meat chicken is not the best protein. It's not bad protein, but it's not the best protein either. And then everything has to be lean meats because you don't want any fat. Oh my God, fat is bad because they don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to go the way they've been programmed with the media and all those. These some of these medical situations is if you eat fat, it just converts to fat. Okay,
Right. Right.
but you do need fat, okay, to do bodily processes. That's what hormones need. They need fat to rebuild cells. So when you start cutting your fat down, you start creating other problems. So,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody thinks that because when you eat fat, it just adds to your cholesterol. There's a lot of hot debate about that too. So, and Vince, he argued about that with many people that it's not anything to worry about. Now, if you're just sitting around not doing anything, you're eating a bunch of carbs, eating a bunch of fat, yeah, you're gonna have some health problems. Okay,
Right.
bottom line.
Right.
Okay, well, we're not talking about people who are doing that. We're talking about people that are active, trying to improve their health. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, don't think you have to do low fat, high carb, and that's going to be your healthy answer. Because I'm not doing that, and my clients aren't doing that. So you don't
Right.
have to
Right.
do it that way, and that way you don't have to eat every 2 to 3 hours either. Okay, it's just not necessary. But it's quite interesting since when we were looking at these different people, they were so starved that their cheat meals were all that. I mean, they just love their cheat meals because they're doing this other
Right.
diet. And
Right.
it's like, well, no wonder you want the cheat meal because you're starved to death with doing what you're doing. You're depleting the fat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I even hate to call them nutrition plans. The starvation diets is what I call them. It was crazy on what they had them eating. And then
yeah.
it was like on cheat day, it was like, let the doors off the cabinets. I mean, anything goes. It's just kind of crazy.
Well, that's what even the actors talked about their cheat day. That was the best thing for them. But
Yeah.
and as you look at what they're eating, it's like, well, no wonder. I mean, and if you're kind of jamming this food in every so many hours, I mean, you could sit back, relax, and have what you want. I mean, what do you think's better? I mean, really. So
Right. Right.
I just fully disagree with that strategy. I mean, I've done it. I've done the
Right.
low, higher carb, low fat. and you have to be careful with it because you'll lose muscle pretty quickly if you're not careful with it.
Hmm.
And the thing is, once I moved to protein and fat as a sustained energy system, I had less issue with that. So, if you don't believe me, try it for yourself.
Well, as we wrap up the segment, we've talked about a lot of different things today. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I would, instead of messing with, doing all these carbohydrates and stuff, I just prefer to do carb cycling. So what that does, it gives you the best of both worlds. Okay, so you have protein and fat as your main source of food intake, but then when you cycle the carbs in, you're going to cycle them in strategically to reload the muscles in the liver as
Mm-hmm.
needed to stay lean. And the whole purpose of all this was to get lean for these actors to look, really nice
Right,
compared to
right.
people look today. Okay, so if you're going
Mm-hmm.
to get lean, lean is not about doing cardio. Lean is about eating enough nutrition to help your body burn fat so that you
Mm-hmm.
have the muscles come to the surface and not be blurred by too much body fat. So carb cycling is a strategy where you're going to carb deplete, okay, for a period of time. And if you want to learn more, you can contact me about it. But you carb deplete so that you get the body to burn fat as your energy system all the time. But then periodically, you reload the muscles and liver with a good amount of carbohydrates that you really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it at night. You don't do it during the day. The reason you do it at night, because once you have the meal, once the insulin drops back down, you're back to fat burning throughout the night as you're sleeping. And you wake up the next day, you're still burning fat again. So this makes a lot more sense. But we'll see how that goes down the road and with people starting to understand that. But the clients that I work with on it, they enjoy it and they get great results. So
Well, Armin, as always, man, great information, and we definitely appreciate it. And thank you.
no problem.
All right. So, everyone, make sure you check out nspnutrition.com as talking about all the things that we have been talking about today. Armin, I got in my MCT oil on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I've been taking it now a week and have noticed the difference. So, have to thank you about that one. I'm going to keep on that and, appreciate that.
I'm on it too. I mean, it's good stuff, especially help burn fat. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we rely on you guys for information, for questions, for topics, any added feedback, anything that you can offer, we'd appreciate it. Now, you can still email us at support@nspnutrition.com, or you can comment on the YouTube channel. We're always looking for that. But now we got these nifty new QR codes. You just scan it. You can access all of our information from our email, our phone numbers, whatever you want to do. You're able to contact Armin and I directly with those same information. Hey, if you're interested in Armin training you, you got his info now. So just contact him, and we're happy to answer any questions. The questions that we do get, we will answer on the show and recognize your questions. So we'll acknowledge and let everybody know, hey, we got this question from whoever, Ed or John or whatever. So we look forward to those questions and that input. And, Armin, we kind of look forward to it too, right?
Yeah, I mean, because there's probably other people that have similar questions that would like answers, and we also learn from it as well. I mean, a lot of these things I have to research and see what's out there. So it makes you smarter too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, thanks for joining Armin and I today, and join us next week for a brand new episode of the NSP Nutrition Show.
One more thing, Frank,
oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to remind everybody that we're really close to hitting our 1,000 subscribers. So if you got people you think,
that's right.
If you got people you think would benefit from learning about the show, send it to them, let them see if they like it, and then hopefully they'll subscribe, because we want to get to 1,000 subscribers to open up more opportunities to do more. So if you can help us do that, that'd be awesome. So share with your friends and other people you care about.
Absolutely. Now I can say it. Join Armin and I next week for a brand new episode of the NSP Nutrition Show.
Hey, thanks for checking out the NSP show. Go to nspnutrition.com where you can find a whole heap of resources to help you achieve stunning definition and eye-popping levels of muscularity. Don't forget you can save 10% on your first order by using the code NSP show at the checkout. Catch you next time.